Hello, g'day, I'm Luke Humphris and I am inside the computer. I'm going to be answering questions today and I'm going to start with the process of how I make my animated shorts. But as a disclaimer, I don't think this is a good way to make them. I do it this way because I know the software, so it's just a quick pipeline for me, but I'm lazy and I should learn a better way. So if you're starting out, don't start this way, but I'll show you how I do it. So when I make an animated short, I always pick like a subject matter that will determine all the decisions I make during the creative process. So this subject matter is like, am I going to try and make a vibe? Am I going to try and be funny? Am I doing world building? Am I doing something technical with animation that's out of my comfort zone? And then everything will frame around that. So for the one we're doing today, I wanted to have a character casually accept the weight of responsibility. And the way I want to do this is have a squire type character offering up a sword and then realizing, oh, I have to actually wield the sword now. I've got a very simple 4-sentence script. It's going to be an internal dialogue for the squire character. And it starts off with, get my sword, Puppetito. Main character is called Puppetito. He's a puppet. The next one is like, I'm so useless. I'll never be able to help others. Then he sees his wizard teacher get done. And he's like, all right. And takes it on. So he doesn't have much self-worth at the start. And that's not even an obstacle he has to overcome. Like he just needs to sort of accept. Well, he doesn't need to. He chooses to accept this responsibility. Okay. So I always start in Clip Studio. That is software I do recommend. It is my main illustration software. I love the perspective lines. That is such a helpful tool, and you can snap your drawing tool to it, so nice and clean. And the community brushes and textures is also really, really good. So I recommend it. However, Clip Studio on mobile devices uses a live service subscription model, which is a bit gross. So I don't know if I would recommend it for that. Anyway, I start by doing a lot of sketches. There is, I guess, trial and error in this process because I'm just putting things in and seeing if I like it, moving the perspective and camera around. I just want the kneeling position and the standing position that he turns into locked in. And once I'm happy with that, then I can start doing all the frames in between. So because this transition is the focus, I'm going to actually spend the time putting a few different frames to show the person getting up instead of the one smear frame, which I like to do a lot. I also have a lot of different styles I like to use. And because I know I'm doing a few frames on this one, I go for the more sketchier one because that does give me a little leeway to make mistakes. And it's got a bit of a grit to it that I quite like. So we do that. I manually make my own onion layers just by putting a red clipping layer over the top and just bringing the opacity down. And then I just use it as a reference and I just sort of build the frames out in between. And then once that's done, I'll pop it into Premiere to just sort of test it. Now, Premiere is just a video editing software. It's from Adobe. Do not give Adobe money. There is much better software out there. I'm just sort of kind of stuck in the ecosystem, but I am hoping to cut off anything Adobe in the near future. So I export everything just as PNGs with transparent backgrounds. Again, find a better way to do this. This is me just forcing it. The way I do it is I just bring it in and everything is 3 frames long by default. Animate on 3s, as they say. I will change this up if needed, but for consistency, I try and keep it at 3. So this is my quick test, and I'm happy with it. There's a lot you can improve on. You look at his right leg, it's doing something wonky. There is if I slowed it down a little bit at the start and finish, or make a smoother transition, but it works. And then, I go back to what am I trying to achieve? I wanted to show him kind of just changing that, accepting that weight of responsibility and changing. And I think it hits it. So leave those errors in and we just keep moving forward. So I decided to put in a shadow, and I'm going to do 2 frames, so that line's going to boil when you watch it. And that'll help, like, create this very medieval fantasy of like a fire light source off screen. But also it'll help when he's not moving, it'll make him more stoic because like the world's breathing a little bit and he's locked in. If I swapped it around and made him boil and the world static, it would make him a little like anxious, a little jittery, and like kind of moving and ready, and that's kind of the opposite. And as I'm making these, I realize I've done the shadows wrong. This doesn't make any logical sense, but it's fine, and it's not going to be that prominent for you. Like, your eyes won't go to the shadow that much, so just roll with the errors, because it's still working towards the vibe. So we're going to do a shadow. It's going to be decapitated, give him a big old wizard hat so it can like recognize as a form. It's nice to focus on a shadow too, because it's not, your eye is still very focused on Puppetito. Even though some text and stuff will pop up, having a shadow decapitation is, we're kind of viewing it offhand the same way Puppetito does, put you in the scene. Beautiful. So I record these lines. The order that I make everything into is always in flux. Like, if I'm kind of getting stuck on one thing, I'll jump to another thing and work on that part. The software I use to record is Audacity. That's great. I recommend them a lot. They're free. There's a bunch of plugins, so you can like do like bit crush sounds and all these different aesthetics. Get my sword, Puppetito. I'm so useless. I'll never be able to help others. Alright. Okay. 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 By default, it has a noise removal feature, which is really, really good. I struggled with that a lot when I first started. Now I just need some setup scenes. So there's 4 lines, and the last 2 are going to be in the last scene. So I just need to create 2 scenes to set it up. And so I already have this in mind. We're going to have a wall of these weird butter knife swords, and clearly one's missing, and then we put the text in there. I did a shadow here, and then when I tested it, it was way too noisy. Like, it was drawing your eye too much, so I made a more subtle shadow for the first one. Second one, got a staircase going down. You can see a little shadow of Puppetito there, but obviously you don't know who he is yet, so it doesn't really matter too much. Because we also have a lot of fire-lit light, I create just these layers to put over the top. And that's a big thing that helps creates a lot of depth, at least in my illustration. It's just using these gradients. Gradients over the flats just really help it, especially when you're doing rough art like I'm doing. If you color block, it'll hold the shape really well. That's why I keep the colors kind of like very simple to the character and they pop out. And then once you put the gradient over the top of the simple color blocking, you create a lot more depth. And I stand on the shoulder of Mobius for that one, for sure. So these 2 scenes end up just being 2 frames each. That's all they are. You're only sitting on them for a few seconds. The sound design will also help carry it a bit, but that's all you need. Like, these 2 scenes are just to complement the final scene. So I drag all my assets into Premiere, and then to do the 2 frames that just bounce between each other, just put them in, and then I just copy and paste them across for as long as I need. So usually the best way to start this process is to just get my audio set up. So I import my recorded lines, I cut them up, and I try and figure out how I want their spacing. And then I do, the first and second scene, super easy. Third scene, I start figuring out the pacing because, it can vary how much of a gap I want. And like Puppetito, I do want to just hold the attention with nothing going on for little bits there. So, I figure out that timing. Then I start adding some audio. I want music in there, and I want the music to dip as the sorcerer gets... And I want to be left with some ambient sounds. I know I have this like cave dripping sort of thing, so I think that can hold the space really well. So I put that in. I had some blood splatter, body thud, decapitation. I had some steampunk sound effects that I bought, so I was able to get a little click-clacky into Puppetito when he stands up. And that's it. I do use Premiere to add noise usually to my stuff, because I like, a bit of dirt and grit to it. Sometimes I'll split the video into the RBG channels, and I'll take the red layer and I'll just shift it a couple of pixels to the side, and that creates that chromatic aberration effect, which I feel I abused a bit too much when I first started, but I still love it. Then you export it and upload it. And I haven't made anything where I couldn't see room for improvement, but I think there's an importance to just moving on. Everything I make, usually at the end, I figure out a way that I could have done it a lot smarter and a lot better. But I would not have learnt that unless I just keep moving forward. So even when they're not a particular winner, or like you don't feel you've achieved what you wanted, I still think it's better to just post it and then do something better next time. Never get stuck on that treadmill of perfecting something, especially when it's such a labor-intensive field. Yeah. Get my sword, Puppetito. I'm so useless. I'll never be able to help others. Alright. My animations take anywhere from like 6 to 20 hours to do. It varies a lot. The Pinky Guard in particular usually goes a bit longer. Maybe 30 something hours. I don't really keep too much of an eye on it. I have Procreate and Procreate Dreams. I don't use them that much because I prefer to work like at my setup here. But I do use them when I'm traveling. And I know people who only ever create an iPad and that's all they use, and they do fine just in that ecosystem, so it's good stuff. Oh, and the devs have talked about like not turning it into a live subscription model, and if they're sincere about that, that's really, really good. For my music, I keep an eye on Humble Bundle, and I pick up all these game developer packs that have sounds. So I have just libraries of all these like Foley sounds, which are obviously really useful. But I have a lot of video game music, which I like because it's usually, I can usually talk over the top of it and it's not a big deal compared to like, songs with lyrics. So that's a huge resource that I always keep stockpiling on. So I got a bunch of licenses for that. But also I got friends in the band Dazzler, and they've made me music for a bunch of different stuff. So yeah. I learned to draw like this because I've made comics for a long time. So I had that skill set to begin with. So while I'm still very much a student when it comes to animation, I do have some strong skills when it comes to color theory and composition. And all the different styles are just from different styles I've tried in the past and, developed. So if you want to learn to draw like this, just practice. The answer every artist gives, unfortunately. Okay, yeah, so quick tour of my workspace. It's my big old PC, my Cintiq that I've had for a long time, the Blue Yeti microphone, with the sound dampening panels glued to some cardboard. It works pretty decent, but I live in an apartment, so I can't record any screams and stuff like that, Craft table, record player, my reading comic book zone. When deciding how much detail to put in the background, it comes back to the process of like, what's the point I'm trying to get across with the animated short, and would the background add or take away from it? Other times it's just a time resource, and I've wasted it on something else, and now I got a phone in the background, and it's sometimes it's just a gut feel to what works and what doesn't. If you're recording and your voice sounds rigid and cringy, I feel that. That is very, very normal. When I record, I usually have to get the bad takes out first. So I'll just read every line 3 times. And then at the end, I might just scrap it and start again. And that's fine. But it helps if you can either have some sort of sincere script to read or just improv on the spot. And a cheap trick I like to do a lot is put it through like a walkie-talkie or telephone filter, so it just sort of statics it out. And that takes a little cringe off of it. Not a lot, but yeah, just practice and be shameless, really. I usually know my color palette before starting just because I have a gut feel for it, I suppose, with my comic background. But I'm always taking photos of things in the city and then using that as a reference. It helps if you just sort of pick two colors too and then just work on the spectrum between those two. You can also reference colors from anything, I believe, because nobody owns colors. So if I use a color palette and you think it's cool, you can just take it because that does not belong to me. I write a lot of notes for my world building. So I don't want you to be able to actually read it, but here's like a page of just like ideas I have. And it's just like, it is messy and sketchy, and I have a notepad and one on my phone. I would like to consolidate it all into one little book, but then I'm scared of losing that book. But yeah, always write your ideas down. Sometimes I'll write an idea down though, and I don't know what I was thinking. Like one that I always keep going back to was, I wrote big camouflage, and I have no idea what that idea was, but yeah. Keep lots of ideas, keep ideas for concepts, and then when you sit on a concept for long enough, it might flourish into something more. Sometimes I write before drawing, sometimes I draw before writing. Some characters are made for the world, sometimes the world's made for the characters. It varies and it comes from different angles. A lot of people asked what are my inspirations, and I'm going to forget stuff for sure. But growing up with comic books, I think Mad Magazine was the one thing I read more than anything else. But then as I got older, like Art Spiegelman with Mouse was really good. When it comes to illustrations, there's Jean Giraud, aka Mobius, is obviously a big one. Moose Kleenex is an amazing illustrator. Akira Toriyama. For animation directors, there's Musaki Yuasa and Hideaki Anno. Internet animators too, like Worthykins, Voon, Joe Kappa, Joseph Bennett, Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, some Newground guys, and I've also got a bunch of mutual animators that are all great. And some people have picked up VR chat worlds. I do like exploring those spaces too. The best art advice I ever got was from my friend Handsome Zach, and I don't remember the exact wording, but it was basically, don't have such an ego to think you're the only one with your interests. And it's true, like, don't think you're such a special, unique person that only what you like, no one else will like. And so don't try and cater to what you think everyone likes, just make what you like, and you'll find an audience. Advice for people starting in animation is just to keep making stuff. I personally haven't really worked in the industry, so I don't have any advice when it comes to careers and making money and that sort of stuff. But to get better, I feel constantly making lots of small things is a quick way to improve, for sure. How do you stop feeling like your stuff sucks? You don't. And that's good. Because the better you get at most creative fields, the more you realize you need to have to work on. So creating stuff will always be a journey. There is no end goal. The better you get, the bigger your scope becomes. So just enjoy it for the flaws, because as you get better, you'll see more flaws in it. And that's good, because like if you didn't see any, if you didn't think your stuff sucked, like where would you go from there? Like you've peaked out, you've hit the ceiling of your ability to comprehend it. So yeah, enjoy the journey. Is all I can say. You will, and if you keep practicing, you will hit a turning point where you'll find you can do things and convey things better, and that will feel good. But there will always be room for improvement, and be the forever student when it comes to this stuff. My main motivator, especially for the animation a day thing I've done a few times, is because I was pitching TV shows for a while there. And I've pitched a bunch of comic books and TV shows, and nothing's been picked up, which is pretty common. Like that, I think that is the majority of experience for people doing that. So I was getting better at that. I was like reading stuff on how to like sell myself better. I hit a point where it's like, oh, I don't want to keep building the skill set of selling myself. Like, I don't want to be really good at pitching ideas. I want to be good at making ideas. So that was, I guess, was kind of a realization too that I have a lot more stories than I would have time to make them all. So I don't really want to keep spending time trying to convince people to let me make them when I can just make them myself, even though the labor involved is a bit daunting. I just wanted to practice making things, and I wanted to just make all the stuff I was trying to like convince people to let me do. And so you can see with the, like, there's a lot of like, this might be the ending scene to a movie, but I'm not making the movie. I'm just making the scene I wanted to make. And yeah, so spite is the motivator, I guess. What are my tips and tricks for saving time? There's a few things I do, depending on the scope of the short, to save time. If I know I got a lot to do, one thing I will do is create a 15-point brush, and I'll turn pressure sensitivity off, and I'm like, make it work. So if a character's small and it's too splotchy and I can't get their face in, it's like, well, figure out a way to make it work. And you either bring them closer or you just don't draw the face. Like, you figure it out, and that helps a lot for speed. Another trick is don't zoom if you're working digitally. Just keep it the size of the screen and just work in that space. Because like, especially with my shorts that appear on social media, a lot of people are going to be watching them on their phone. So like, just keep that in mind. And you don't need more than 2 frames to convey something. Like, if you want it to be good, you need to put more frames in. But like, 2 frames is fine. Like, you can get away with that, you know. What idea or concepts are you struggling to bring to life? What is difficult or elusive? I am bumping into the sides of the constraints of the animated shorts. So I've had ideas for like fun, romantic little stories, but they just feel very insincere in that space. So that's something I'd like to do more of. And fight scenes. I'd love to do a lot of like really good action, moving of mass and weight around fight scenes, but that will require a lot of labor, and I do not have time to really do that, but I'd love to sink my teeth into that. Yeah. How do you come up with your surreal yet cozy ideas? They are all just escapism. It is just getting out of the world and just being somewhere else. And even though some of them are a worse place to live than the world right now, it is quieter, and that is just where the escapism comes from. Also, when there's just something bigger than, because our problems in the world are very daunting. So when you can zoom out on that and just have a bigger problem, it makes your own life feel a little cozier, I guess. Do I come up with my ideas one after the other, or on the spot, or did you plan an intricate story with detailed world building beforehand? It varies a lot. There are some animations I will come up with on the day that I make them. Some have been cooking in a book for a long time, where it's just like, it just took a long time to figure out how to make it. Sometimes they're just a bit of a daunting project, so I kind of push it back to someday when I'm feeling courageous enough to take it on. But yeah, it just varies. It varies. What's your most despicable inspiration? Cringe compilations. Some of them are really mean-spirited, so they're not all good, but anytime I see a video of someone breaking a social norm to chase joy, or just do something to sell themselves in a certain way, I do find that inspiring. I respect those people way more than most, to be honest. And that's also why I have a pet peeve with people who do parodies of those guys. It's like, it's so mean-spirited, and it's less entertaining than those guys. It's like, get off the feed, get out of the way. Show me the real deal. I often struggle with scope creep. The longer I work on a project, the more ideas I have to improve it, which makes it take even longer. How do you decide when a piece is good enough and it's time to push it out the door? So it will definitely vary depending on what you're working on. With my animated shorts I was talking about, I pick a thing that is the focus and that determines all the other decision making. So in a way, I would say if you can hit that, send it, and then just do better next time. What advice resources would you give someone who wants to learn to draw? Just copy other people. Honestly, like, don't rip off someone's work, but just like play around in different styles. You know, just constantly get out of your comfort zone. Stop trying to perfect 3/4 turn girl, because it'll never be perfect. So get out of your comfort zone, draw everything, and copy things you see. Yeah. How do you get your ideas? It seems you never run out of imagination. By making things. Every shot I make inspires a couple of other ideas. So if you want to get inspired, just keep making, create, and like once you get into that space, you'll find things that you want to play with in a certain way. So making stuff inspires you to make other stuff. How do you manage to navigate the intersection between wholesome and comforting and frightening otherworldly? I feel both of those things are bigger than our lives. So when you zoom out enough, both of those are things that just exist. There is something wholesome and comforting about the fact that everything we know will not exist at some point. You know, they're one and the same in a lot of ways. Are all the characters you make in the same universe? No, sorry. They're all in their own worlds. Like the When Society Collapsed stories wouldn't have the same impact if there was a mech in the city over. So for the most part, they're not. I'm fine with like crossovers though, because like some are just a high fantasy setting or a cyberpunk setting. So there's nothing stopping them from crossing over, but there is no game plan for them all to come together in some sort of satisfying conclusion. So, yeah. What gives you inspiration for the After Society Collapsed animations? So, post-apocalyptic stories are a great place for a power fantasy, and all the stories you've seen are some variation of my own power fantasy. If what I could do, if I had like just free time and possibly resources. So a lot of people do read them as very altruistic, and there is some altruistic stuff going on there. But end of the day, each of those stories is about someone doing what they want if they had nothing else to do. Post-apocalyptic stories are also very good for criticizing the modern day. So what a lot of these characters get up to is not impossible or crazy. It's stuff that you could be doing right now. But it's just difficult in modern life where you need to work a lot, etc., etc. So it's just like, man, these little joys would be nice if we could do them with a lot of breathing room, I guess. If there is limited resources, there will be conflict. But I'm not interested in telling that sort of stuff just because there's already so much stuff telling those stories. So, yeah. What do you think so many other post-apocalyptic art tends to linger on the bleak and tragic instead of the hope and love, our ability to get through things in the face of extreme adversity? Because post-apocalyptic stories criticize the modern day, a lot of them are like foreshadowing of, if we keep living the way we're living right now, this is probably where we're going to end up, or we could end up. So there is merit to the bleak storytelling. Even though, like, you'll get stuff like Fallout, like modern Fallout in particular, doesn't really have anything to say. It is just a setting. But that's still fun because you can have a character that is, you know, it's their endurance and their will that is being tested to survive. So that's always just a fun storytelling device. A lot of your post-apocalyptic upbeat fiction reminds me of a few recent trends in tabletops, Wild Sea, Earthbound Ranges specifically, but basically anything that follows the trend of, as a reviewer put it, what if the apocalypse happened and it made things better? I think systemic collapse is just the modern day power fantasy. A thing about the Society Collapsing series has been keeping me wondering what caused the collapse. My first guess is nuclear warfare, but I didn't see any obvious signs to that, but I suppose that's part of the wonder of it. I will reveal that in a longer video eventually. Compared to the other ones, though, it will be a bad time, a bad vibe. But I want to make sure I do it really well, because like I am conscious that I'm romanticizing depopulation stuff, and I'm not about that. But yeah, expect a sad video eventually. In the video, when society collapsed, are there any fashion that people adopted, or is it a pure luck and survival? Sometimes you just gotta embrace the aesthetic and put on a tire pauldron, but you know, it varies. Again, it's just what people want, I think, and what they can find. What got you into the post-apocalyptic theme art? What was your influence? I enjoy Mad Max and Fallout, so they're like aesthetically a huge influence. There's also Tokyo Jungle, and that's like an abandoned Tokyo where you play different animals, and I really like that. There's also been all these photographers that would take these abandoned photos in Japan, so like abandoned love hotels and theme parks and just nature reclaiming that sort of stuff. There was one photo that lives rent-free in my head of a restaurant that was abandoned, but all the food was still on the plates, and it was all just rotted and decayed, and it's like, what happened? So it's part aesthetics and part quietness. What happened to the military and soldiers when society collapsed? Are they still around, like providing security and protecting everyone from the shadows? They're dissolved. Don't worry about them. Of all your post-apocalyptic stories, what character is your favorite? I really like Duck Girl. Duck Girl's my favorite too. In When Society Collapsed, the main narrator is still the movie guy, right? What movie is the highest on his wish list to recover from the ruins and is secretly afraid is now lost media? Yeah, he is the narrator. That kind of came into play because I didn't want to have to limit characters to my own voice range. So by making him the narrator, I can just make any character and just talk about them. And he really wants the 1987 Garbage Pail Kids, which he has heard rumors exist across the country. Will you add zombies to your After Society Collapsed? There are rumors of zombies and mutants, aliens, robots, but nothing any of our characters have seen. What for you is so attractive about post-apocalyptic landscapes? They're aesthetically pleasing, but quiet and calm, and the majority of problems you had are now long gone behind you. Which of the knights is your favorite? Nightshade. You know, big kind idiot with an ego. It's beautiful. Why did Nightshade get kicked out? Was it because everyone was jealous? Okay, so the Sprout army he comes from, they're all kind of like druids where they protect nature and they draw their power from nature. So when Nightshade developed his big old body, he took a big gulp, more than he should have. So all the other Sprouts were like, you're taking more than you deserve. So they kind of kicked him out for that because he could never really wrap his head around it. So it's less like he doesn't respect nature, he just more doesn't understand. I think one person picked up on this in the comments, but in the video he's introduced, he picks a flower off the ground and just sort of like crunches it up and lets it go off into the wind, which is just like pretty weird for a druid to do, you know? Will the Himbo Knights ever get more companions? Those 6 are the main crew. I don't think I really want to add any more to that, but there would be other people in their orbit that would be around. There's the Goblin Princess, which obviously the Goblin Boys are aware of, so they look after her sometimes. There was the Steam Train Knight Captain that you saw once. There would be a king involved. There's like gnomes. There's a bunch of characters, but those 6, they're the boys. They're the crew. What sort of band would the Knights start if they ever make it big? I mean, they're basically a boy band already, so... Throat Slitter 2, and Kevin are 3 of my favorite characters of all time. What was the inspiration for them? Just a little ride or die crew. They are super aligned, and they know each other well enough that they're in sync. You know, they just have a history. And they got some flavor of Shinji Mimura's crew in Battle Royale. So like when crisis happens, they get together and like, what are we gonna do? There was never an option where they're not together through it, and so that's them boys. Do you most identify with Throat Slitter, Kevin, or Throat Slitter 2? I'm a Kevin main. Yeah, I'm along for the ride. What name does the three goblins in a suit use when he's in the suit? Or do they continue to refer to themselves individually? This keeps me up at night. They tend to just make up pseudonyms to use as the suit when they're not really giving out their identities. They use Thor 2 a lot because they got Mjolnir 2. So, how did the Himbo Knights meet? Is there a club? Can I join? They are knights of a particular kingdom, so they serve the monarchy. So if you want to join them, you gotta bend the knee. How much does the Pinky Guard gets paid per month? The Union Man gets a living wage. Will we see more of the crew dealing with the undying Eldritch gods? Yeah, for sure. I don't think anyone wants to see what green and red suits do, though. But other than that, yeah, for sure. What does the Pinky Guard do during his free time? Is he friends with the Knee Guard? I imagine he loves to have some brewskis with the fellas. He's a pretty chill guy. But he doesn't really... People who work below the belt have their own clique going on, so they don't intermingle too much. How many fingers does the Finger Guard have? It varies because I rarely draw on model. How did you get the idea for the Pinky Guard? That started from me wanting to animate a regenerating chunks first, and I wanted to loop it, and then that sort of came to this thing of like incredible Eldritch God that you can hold down, but you don't ever stop holding it down because you don't know what's going to happen. Are you going to continue the whatever series? Yes, without any specific schedule. So I will... Space Station Weird is my number one baby. And it is the hardest one for me to do, and I do lose scope on it a lot, so I wish I got more episodes out sooner. But that one will 100% continue, as well as Pinky Guard, When Society Collapsed, The Himbo Knights. Almost any short I'd love to revisit. Like Big House definitely needs to come back, but I got no plans right now for that. End of the day, it's all time. I'd love to do sequels to everything. Are there going to be any long-form content about whatever? Yeah, it all comes down to labor. So nothing is planned. I would love to do longer form content, but it's kind of impossible by myself. Out of all the animations you've made recently, what would you like to see become a full or mini series if given the chance? I think the Himbo Knights would be the most fun because I would love to have a series where it's like one big overarching quest where they have to go somewhere, and I'd love to just like animate them like buying airship tickets, going on an airship, staying at inns, camping out in a field. Like, showing that journey would be a lot of fun. Though, pretty much any of them I got ideas for a full series, so that would be fun to dive into. Have you considered making full backgrounds from some of your animations? Yes, there is a free post on my Patreon where I export all the backgrounds from my animations. I'll do them in batches. If there's a recent one you want that's not in there, just message me and I'll put it in. And I'll include that link in the description. What is your favorite recurring character setting in your shorts? I do really love the cyberpunk guy, because he's just this like Sigma Alpha type dude who's a loner, and he just misunderstands very basic things in the world, and he's always just disillusioned because he couldn't get a grasp on anything, and that's funny to me. Who is the biggest guy you've made? Green Mr. Ghoul would be the biggest guy I've ever made. What was the inspiration for the Weird Space Station series? The cosmic horror of toiling away. Do you have many unexplored universes or particular genres in the back pocket that you've not felt you had enough content to create a short about that you've always wanted to dig deeper into? Yeah, no, there's hundreds. I got so many different worlds and stories I want to tell, and sometimes there's like multiple stories in the same world. Nothing has not enough content. Most stuff is just too daunting of a project to do it in a way that I'd feel happy about so far, yet. Hey man, what is the worst animation you made in your heyday? One of the early ones I did last year was like a Zoom call, because I worked for an American company for a little bit, and everyone was talking like they were in a sitcom, and I would just disassociate constantly. I didn't think there was actually people like that. So I did a little animation about that, and my voice is very joke. It's a very sketch. Here's the Candace of the funny that's coming. And I made, even as I was working on it, I was like, this stinks. But again, that's the value of making lots of small things, was that I was able to bump into that wall and be like, oh, I don't want to explore in this direction. This doesn't interest me. But yeah, still posted it and moved on. What do you think of the Plinky Guard being your most popular video? Yeah, I think that's cool. I'm glad other people vibe out with like horror meets mundane. You know, it is sadly relatable. What's the best and worst parts of being a YouTube creator? I can make something on the day and then share it instantly and have an audience. And I get paid a little bit of money for that. So that's the good stuff. The bad stuff is that animators in particular on YouTube get really low ad rates, especially because it's like, again, it's a very labor intensive field. So when I work out my hourly rate, it's less than minimum wage, but that's only Google AdSense, and I knew that before going in, but you are in a bit of a mucky ecosystem too. Like, I don't control what ads are shown on my stuff, so that part sucks, but I'm not creating in a vacuum anymore, so that's nice. If cost was not a concern, would you rather make a film, TV show, or video game? I would love to do any, but probably a video game, an unlimited video game budget. Oh, that would... You wouldn't see me for 5 years, and then I'll come back with something cool. 6 years. You shared what others have done when society collapsed, but what will you be up to? I don't like the implication that it's coming, but yeah, every character is some variation of stuff that I want to do. Like, just collect media, fly an aerolite, go hang out in the woods, feed people, plant stuff. Like those are already the things I'd like to be doing. I know the practicality of a lot of them would be a lot more work than I'm implying, but yeah, if I had to pick one, yeah, I'd probably just grow food. Yeah. How many characters have you made? I don't know. How did you end up doing art? Did you do an art school? I did 6 months out of high school at a community college animation thing, and then I dropped out, and then I didn't touch animation for like a decade and regretted it. And that's more or less it. I did the tutorial on the bouncing ball and spinning cube, and other than that, it's all self-taught. I just sort of like reverse engineer things I see, and it makes a lot of my stuff wonky, but that adds the Luke flavor, I guess. Do you resonate more with the cutesy side of your creations or the existential horror side? Who influenced you into making comics? Mad Magazine, Art Spillman, and all the Brisbane zine creators. Your tone is so unique. Is it a reflection of your personal beliefs, experiences, or something else? Probably. How do you manage to keep creating despite the threat of AI? So specifically with image generators that use stolen work for their algorithms, which I think is all of them, you just keep going in spite of it. These AIs, can only look into the past. So as they improve, they'll be able to do these elements of yours better than you can, and it'll definitely do speed better than you can, but it will never be able to do your voice better than you. It'll never, fully get your aesthetic and ideologies. So you are already the best in your voice, and nothing will ever be better than you at your own voice. So you can keep going in spite of that. Material conditions in the meantime for people in ecosystems where AI is replacing them. I don't have a good answer for that. That really sucks. I hope all these lawsuits that are going on go through and kind of shut down a lot of this stuff. In the meantime, though, AI does look cheap. If I see anything with AI on it, I know they're just doing things for the cheapest and quickest method possible. So if I see a coffee shop with it, I'm like, well, I probably don't want to go there because they're doing everything as the bare minimum possible. And when I see an AI image now, you just kind of see the prompts. So if there's a ship in the ocean and it's AI, I just see the word boat. But if an artist makes a ship in the ocean, then it's like every detail has a meaning compared to AI. And I could be wrong about this, but I feel as they refine it and, make hands and stuff, and like perspective lines and lighting more correct, it's going to create a very AI aesthetic. And you can see that with a lot of stuff now where it's like this weird kind of bloom and glossy gradients over characters. Like when you see that, your brain's like, oh, AI. And yeah, as they refine and make the AI stronger, it will just reinforce these aesthetics, and it will just become just like soulless clip art. Like clip art has more meaning and purpose and charm to it than any AI would. So yeah, again, just as the image generators, I think they'll be around for a long time, but they will always be the tacky and worst thing that you can use. And it sucks too, because I do love uncanny and weird things, so I'd love to play with it, but they've just, diseased the soil too much for me. How many ideas do you tend to scrap? None, really. You definitely overcook an idea too much, and it becomes bloated, and you don't know what to do with it. And there are times that you will just salvage things out of it that you like and put into other things, or like it might even just split into two different ideas completely. And other ideas just need time to develop, so they just sit somewhere and they sit in the back of your head, and then one day you find a way to bring it together. So all ideas just, they hang around until needed. Yeah. Why did you start animating? It's a really strong medium for me. I like being able to like block characters where I want. I love being able to like play with a color palette. I love being able to make a background that suits my foreground instead of like finding a background that works. You can also control the viewer's eye line a lot. Like I can, if I do a piece really well and I can control where you're looking, like that's really satisfying, and that's easier to do in animation. It's also just a very sincere medium, I feel, and like if I drew a guy who got stabbed, it's ultimately an illustration, which is a symbol, so you kind of take it at face value, while an actor who got stabbed needs to kind of sell that they've been stabbed. So that's kind of like, there's just something a bit more true to animation in that. That is an opinion though, so you can value other things. Pros and cons to different mediums. Would you expand past the IG format, or are you worried you might lose the magic if you did? No, I plan to. I'm definitely hitting the walls with some of that. So it's just like the constraints of the vertical video and the short time frame, and like there was a certain, in that ecosystem too, you can't do too many long drawn out things because people will just swipe off of it, which is also fine. But I do want to expand, but I also it's fine. Like the format is just a tool, and it's like, what can you use this tool for? Do you think it will be possible for the culture to shift back towards animation films being made as drawn 2D? For it to be appreciated and valued enough to become invested financially to fund its existence? If so, what do you think it will take from the people creating animation to impact the tides towards the 2D direction? Unfortunately, the animation industry is really, it sucks, it's really gross, so I think it would just take a 2D film to make a lot of money for them to push that. But the entire industry needs to be rehauled, unfortunately. Like too many just like animators getting abused, which is a little off topic, but yeah, unfortunately. But in the current state, it needs to make money. But 2D is thriving in like Japan and France and stuff. So, when you were small, what did you want to be when you grew up? Did you always want to be a comic guy? No, I wanted to have adventures and like test my endurance, but the compromise is that I make up the adventures. Do you draw traditional comics in the style of your animations? No, they're a little bit different. Some are done digitally, some are done with pen, some are done with brush and ink, and a lot of them are autobiographical. So, they're still my personality and aesthetic, but they're a different vibe for sure. If you play video games, what genre would your ideal video game be, and what mechanics would it have? I'd love to make a farming sim game like Harvest Moon and Stardew, but I want what you grow to have a different value than money. Like, it's still going to be like the same reward and upgrade cycle that you would have, but like, I don't know, I gotta make 10 potato stews for the lumberjacks, and then they'll chop enough wood down to give me the resources to build a bridge. Like, I kind of want that kind of mechanic. Would you ever be interested in having a guest voice actor in your videos? If so, what would you like? Probably a feminine voice, because there's a few characters that I just haven't really put on the page because I can't give them the right voice. That being said, though, I'm pushing that back as long as I can, because at the moment I'm making stuff solo and I'm in my own little bubble and ecosystem, and I feel like that'll eventually end. So I just want to enjoy it for longer if I can, because it's fun. It's fun. Just, if my audio is not good, I can just jump on the mic and re-record something. So feminine voice eventually. How does seeing the inspiration people get from your art make you feel? It is overwhelming how nice it feels. If someone comments that I've knocked them out of a doom scroll, that feels so good. And if I do a story that has sort of like a vague open-endedness to it, it kind of forces people to mentally think what that is, and then that can get creative juices flowing in people, and they start writing and creating again, and it's like, incredible. I love that. Amazing. Do you ever feel actual existential dread? A lot of your work actually calms me from the worries I have about reality, but that makes me wonder if you ever have similar thoughts. Not really. Like, you can't experience the past, you can't experience the future, you can only experience now. And I don't dread now. Oblivion's coming for all of us, but like, what? Me worry? My question is, do you like tabletop RPGs? I see it a lot in the worlds you create, but then again, I'm probably just seeing that through the eyes of a fan or those sorts of things. I do, but I've not played many. I've done a lot of like character setups and like one play, and then it just never happens. I'd love to be a DM because I think I could be good at that, but I'd need to learn the mechanics. So one day. If you were going to make a bunch of shorts for another year, or you knew of someone going about that, what would be a good thing to take away from the experience? Keep the scope small and manageable, because you'll blow out on things that you get excited and passionate about. So try and keep the base level real low, and then you can spend time on the things that excite you. Yeah. In a week, how many hours do you spend drawing? Does some of it go to finding reference or inspiration? It could vary between like 10 to 80 hours. Like, not often 80. That's a very outlier. Let's say on average 20 to 30 hours drawing, I think. I don't monitor it enough, sorry. What's your favorite animation of yours and why? I like the guy getting thrown out the window, because that first shot, I love the way your eyes read the text, action happens over the text, and then your eyes follow it down. Like, there's such a nice flow to it. What inspired the transition from comics to animation? I struggled getting some pacing stuff across with comics that I can do very easily with animation. Because I do like holding pauses and like holding people's attention with nothing for a second or two here and there. And I wasn't very effective at it at comics, which is a little bit of the medium, but also a little bit my own skill level. Yeah. How do you maintain the energy, will, ability to make something every day? So when I started last year, I was just recently unemployed, and I was like, I have a little window to make stuff. So what a precious gift. Let's use it as much as I can. So spite. How the hell did you not collapse and die when doing that daily animation challenge? Spite. What part of making animations is the most fun for you? When a static image comes to life, that's the fun part. If you had a choice to live in one of the worlds you've created, which one would you want to live in the most? Probably the self-insert little worlds. I'd love to live in the walls of reality. If you could go back in time and live anywhere for just 1 month without massively altering the course of history, where and when would you travel to? The age of conifers, if I don't die. That'd be cool. Do you have any long-form projects on the horizon? Space Station Weird is probably the main priority for that, and long form means 3-minute videos, I guess, but Space Station Weird is probably the only big one. It's super refreshing hearing an Australian accent whenever you upload. What part of the Australian culture, wildlife, or landscapes inspire you the most? So I'm from Queensland, so a lot of the islands, Moreton, Bribie, Fraser, the Daintree Rainforest, the Dry Bush, a lot of those environments. Do you have a favourite spacesuit design, either from real life or in fiction? The AX3 hard suit, that's got some nice chunk to it, I like that. Do you have any pets? No, because I travel between countries and I'm on visa, I never know what my situation is, so I can't really adopt an animal when I can't guarantee to look after it, which sucks. When, how, and where did you learn animation? Yeah, mostly self-taught, just trying to, reverse engineer what stuff I see. If you look at some of my early animations, especially, like, the first Space Station Weirds, it is basically a PowerPoint slideshow where I'm just bringing an image in, talking over it, and maybe putting a second frame in, and then just evolving from that, to be honest. Do you have a plan to sell art prints? I do at comic conventions, which I go to sometimes. So usually it's like TCAF, FanCAF, SBX are the three that I like the most. But I don't sell them anywhere online. I should do an online shop, but I can't really just go to the post office every couple of days. I'll figure something out. How do you feel about the ever-increasing speed of technological development? I'm glad to be here to see it. Interesting times. What are some cool places you've visited recently? NASA's Jet Propulsion Lab. Have you in the past or future or presently considered not safe for work? I'm not morally against it, so in the past I thought, yeah, I could do that for money. I'd be down for that, but I was too lazy to even make a library or catalog of what I'm capable of, so didn't really have much effort to get there, and now I'm too busy to do commissions for that sort of stuff anyway, so you missed out. What does your average day look like? So I wake up, I meditate, I drink coffee, I exercise, and then I sit in a chair for 12 hours and not talk to anyone. And that's the dream. I love it. If you could suddenly know what everyone really thinks about you, good or bad, would you want to know? I think no out of respect. But if people consented, send it. Thoughts on socialism? Be nice to see some in my lifetime. Video idea you never got the chance to work on? Some fight scenes. Just a bit too much for me to work on at the moment, but yeah. What kind of theme is your favorite to revisit? End of the world stuff, it just makes everything finite and satisfying. Any plans to partner up with others to work on larger projects? No plans at the moment. I'd like to, and I think that's where I'm headed eventually. But as I was saying, I'm very happy vibing in my own space at the moment. Do you have any merch? I sell comics, prints, and stickers at conventions, but nowhere online. And I love to do some shirts, and I've been contacted by multiple plushie places, but it's a bit difficult because with all the, just the cheap fast fashion stuff, I don't know if someone's being paid slave labor wages to manufacture stuff with my creations on it. That feels yuck. So I do want to do that. I need to find the right angle to come at it from. That's about it. That's where I'm stuck at. And ideally a company too, because mailing from Canada is kind of expensive. What's your D&D build of choice? I like high constitution. I love being able to just walk into traps and to see what's going on. There's just to be so strong and naive at the same time is fun. If you had the resources to make a movie, would you? And any clue what you would like to make? I would love to make a really moody anime. Do you watch anything while you animate? And if so, what? Silent game playthroughs are really nice. I like putting them in the background. Some sitcoms that just don't require much attention from you. That's nice. And video editorials are always fun too. How did you get your footing on YouTube? Or animating for an audience in general? I just kept plugging away. I just kept animating the shorts and enjoying getting better at that skill. Because I think I was 40 animations deep by the time I hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So I was definitely posting to no one for a long time before that picked up. So yeah, you just got to keep going and hope the algorithm likes you. And yeah, it's there's no guarantees for success, unfortunately. What got you into YouTube? So there was YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, and TikTok, and it's short form videos that get forced on people. So I was like, I can animate short form because that's a lot less labor, and it's going to make at least some people look at my stuff. And I figured if I keep doing that and I keep improving, it'll eventually get some sort of traction because unlike some other platforms, if you make stuff and you're not connected to anyone, no one will ever see it. So, just take advantage of our for small audience of YouTube. Do you ever go back to your old works and correct them? And why or why not? No. I want to, but no. I'd rather just make something new and better, even though I would love to rehaul a lot of stuff. But yeah, keep moving forward. Will there be any more Super Flooper domain content? And if so, do you think it'll ever become an actual game? Why does a Bolivian seem so kind and calming? No responsibilities. When did you start animating? As a hobby 5 years ago, but taking it seriously the last year. How do you translate your ideas into your animations, and how do you know how to start? It might be because of the shorts, but zooming on a particular element helps a lot. What is the first thing you would do in space? Spacewalk if I could. Imagine that. If you could have one magical item that does insert whatever, what would it be? Something that answers your questions. If I had like a little truth mirror and whatever I answered, it would tell the truthful answer. That would be cool. Who are you? I'm Luke Humphris. Just own it and don't be embarrassed by it. Each is more powerful than the last. 201, but us Lukes are trying to move past that stereotype. My Void House. Send it and get a robot one. I like Magic the Gathering, but I was priced out of it a long time ago. British Columbia? Unemployed. By making heaps. Variety. I love them. All spiders are allowed to chill in my house. Make art full time. It was inside you all along. No, I wish. That'd be cool. Harvest Moon for the Super Nintendo, which you can chalk up to nostalgia, for sure, but just a good vibe. Pesto and pasta. I think the 100 chicken-sized zombies. Just have to be, methodical about it. Either meditate or get messed up. King of all cosmos, Captain Olimar, Donkey Kong, and we'll bring a Pac-Man Jerry, Buster Blade, the frog suit from Mario. Is this a good enough answer? Yes. Yet here I am in a capitalist society. When you're in the mood to put all the details in, skeletons are fun. When you have to animate them and you're not in the mood, they're painful. I just wanted an easy life. I just wanted to hang out, but the world said no. Can't do that. The digital loom from Space Station Weird, that was in a dream. And it was in a spaceship that was made up of multiple spheres, and it would snake through the air. And I pulled myself out of the digital loom, and the ship blew up, and then it crashed, and I woke up, and that's the weirdest dream I've had. But the Donkey Kong dreams, I do have those, though it's been a while. Metaphysical representation of emotions. One Punch Man. Yeah, so SPX, TCAF, and VanCAF are probably the biggest conventions I go to avoid dealing with it. I have not. Maybe. Mudabarasaurus. 6 to 8 hours. Steak and onion. Leg-sized fingers. I'm fooling. Avocado and Vegemite, leave me alone. Grill a cheese sandwich. Electabuzz or Onyx? Ramen. 5'9". Inside Outus. Cookies and cream. Goodbye. A bitey super mature cheddar. A humphead wrasse. Apple. Sunlight reaches Earth's atmosphere and is scattered in all directions by all the gases and particles in the air. Blue light is scattered more than the other colours because it travels at shorter, smaller waves. I love ducks. I'm vegetarian, but Korean fried barbecue chicken is the best. Probably. 4 months ago. Cobble generator. I'd start with the T800. Go on dates. Go on the right dates. Channel spite into endurance. No one's coming for you. But you can get out. At the moment, I've been enjoying breakfast rice. To become conscious and then die. I just like drawing beautiful men. I can take both. I sleep for 14 hours. Okay, after, but here's the thing. If you did milk first and then put Cocoa Puffs on top of the milk, then they're going to stay crunchier for longer instead of becoming soggy. But it's still too unhinged to me. I got to do cereal first every time. Banana peppers. You know why. Oh, there's probably a lot of OP ones. That would be the right answer, but I feel like Colossus would feel good. You'd be like, ding, 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 ding. Like, it's gonna be satisfying. Have a car wrap around you. Ugh. Butternut squash. Butternut squash. I think they're all screaming. No, I caught it. It's incredibly gay. Shoebill stalk. Oh, anything that's like a big old force of nature like Godzilla. And probably, yeah, Australian KFC. Environmental atmosphere. No max. This guy just said Gronch. Alright, same sourdough, but white bread has its place. Oh, there are some sandwiches that white bread is king on. Caramel? Lower your expectations. Practice, don't flip it too much. It's hot because you don't have AC. Mario! Key towel. Vanilla 2. Already have. Red onion. Neither. Red onion. Bear. Red onion. No, and it's not really my goal. I don't really want to be animating other people's stuff. Red onion. Not right now. Red onion. It's alright. Red onion. Just watch videos. There is Patreon if you want, but, you know, don't feel any pressure. Just watching videos is so good. Coffee. Back of the moon? Coffee. One times 4 times 16 equals 64. Cube root of 64 equals 4. Geometric mean of two numbers is the square root of its product. GM of 1 and 4 equals square root over 4 equals 2. Coffee. Wombat. Coffee. Wombat. Coffee. Reverse vampire, maybe? Coffee. Neither. Sorry. Coffee. Lytton. Good. Have you read the Wikipedia on them? Good. 9. Good. Tomato. Good. Ray. Good. Yeah, dudes rock. Good. Big dog, but only if I could give it a good life, which I can't in the city. Good. 11 and a half. Good. Jonathan. Good. Zerul. None. 1. None. Next to me, I think. None. Blender. I know a little bit, but I'd like to learn more of that. None. 2 to 100. It varies a lot. I find as I get closer to the end too, I'll start just like doing little touch-up layers on the top instead of trying to find where the one I wanted to edit is, so yeah. 2 to 100. None. It's a fun zone. None. He's the best of us. None. None. Nothing good. Nothing great. No fear. Green tea with ginger. Daily. Kawaru. Nothing. Ava Unit 1. Waffles. It doesn't matter. I'm not. The Stabber. Yes. No. I don't know. Enough. Yes. No. I don't know. Sideways. Yes. No. I don't know. Everything. Yes. No. I don't know. Hard work. Yes. No. I don't know. Practice. Yes. No. I don't know. Floorbow. Yes. No. I don't know. Pretty cool. Yes. No. I don't know. Bunyip. Yes. No. I don't know. Tacos. Yes. No. I don't know. Probably. Yes. No. I don't know. Bubble milk. Yes. No. I don't know. Rock fairy. Yes. No. I don't know. Easily. Yes. No. I don't know. Blue. Yes. No. I don't know. Blue. Yes. No. I don't know. Teal. Yes. No. I don't know. Spite. Yes. No. I don't know. Friends. Yes. No. I don't know. Moss. Yes. No. I don't know. Dope. Yes. No. I don't know. Corn. Yes. No. I don't know. It. Yes. No. I don't know. Run. Yes. No. I don't know. Google. Yes. No. I don't know. Duck. Yes. No. I don't know. Meat. Yes. No. I don't know. Fast. Yes. No. I don't know. 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 Yes. No. I don't know.